Today I'm being joined by Matt Osborn, who's an actor that's appeared in horror movies like Vegas Frankenstein, They Call Her Headhunter, and the upcoming The After Dark, which will be available on Tubi July 9th. Matt, thanks for joining me.
All right, it's a pleasure being here.
Now, Matt, I introduced you as an actor because in the credits of all these movies, it's like here's a role, and then Matt Osborn plays that character. But I know that on movie sets, oftentimes you find yourself wearing a lot of different hats. So why don't you take us through some of the jobs you might have found yourself doing in and around a film set?
Well, anytime working on a Plan 10 picture with Tom Devlin, you wear many hats. From holding a light to adjusting a light over here to running to grab a script to helping someone run through their lines off camera. So it's a little bit of everything on a set. I've done some script supervising in the past. I've done some things like that. But when I'm acting, I try and keep as much of it if I'm there to act that day, I'm an actor.
Good.
I try and keep it right there. Yeah, because when you've got lines going on in your head and ideas in your head, it's hard to be like, all right, grab that light real quick and run it over here, And so you can forget. That's the only times where I've just blown a line where I've been like, what was I supposed to do today? I've been holding this light for 2 hours, so I forgot.
Yeah, it gets a little bit hectic, I guess, sometimes, and that's the world of entertainment just in general. It's one of those things you got to be aware of. And Planted, I like how you talked about the studio first, right? Because I do want to know more about that group and that outfit and just where they come from. And tell you actually, how about we go ahead and just jump to that, right? Let's talk about like the genesis of that company and God, there's a lot of movies that they put out. You're wearing a shirt right now. That's Teddy told me to. I think
I'm wearing the Care Threads. Teddy told me to.
Yeah.
Yep.
So give us some background on the group, on the outfit.
So I mean, look, it's the mastermind behind it all. The father of it is Tom Devlin, and I think the birth of it was really. I know he's gonna hate me for saying this, but I've already talked to him, and I'm like, I'm gonna say. I called him and said, "What do you want me to say?" And he goes, "Say what you know what we are, you know what we do. You're part of the family. Just say what you're gonna say." And that's all the tip he gave me. So I feel like Plan 10 definitely started, in his mind probably when he was on Face Off and he made the Teddy character on Face Off. That's where Teddy came from. Um, but Plan 10 Pictures, started with Teddy. It's the house that Teddy built. That's what Tom always says, the house that Teddy built. This idea in this movie and making this movie was I think really the birth of it for him. I mean, it's kind of based off of he worked for Troma a lot, Full Moon, so that kind of vibe, that kind of feel where it's not the budget really as much as it is the family feel of it. Like everyone's involved, like you said, everyone's involved on the set, everyone's involved with the script. And so as soon as we made Teddy, I mean, right after it was done, he was like, I'm going to, produce it, edit it, do everything with this film. We're going to make an in-house thing, and we're going to look, and he really wants to look for other filmmakers that want to come on board so we can distribute their films, work with, different people. So, yeah, I mean, Plan 10 was just birthed out of Tom's love for not just cheesy 80s horror stuff, but it's just 80s, 90s horror, sci-fi, adventure vibe.
Yeah.
It's a home like Full Moon, like Troma, something like in that same sort of vein, but where he can help people make these movies and get them out where people can see them.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you about this is because, like, I'm a really big fan of, and I have a lot of respect for, I have a vision and I have a desire, and I'm just going to find a way to make that happen. And you could really tell that that's what this is and that's what this was. And I really liked that you said that it's the house that Teddy built, because Teddy told me to. It's about a couple that they, I don't want to go too much. I don't want to spoil it because you can watch it on Tubi for free, and I think you should. It's a lot of fun. But they buy a haunted house, they reopen a haunted house, and it seems like that's kind of the way a lot of haunts are in general.
Yeah.
I've never worked for a haunt, but I did actually grow up next door to a haunt from the time I was born until I was 10 years old. I actually lived it was like we lived in a trailer, and then there was like a big chain link fence that was overgrown with foliage, and then the haunt was next door.
Awesome.
So like every night from like late September to early November, I would just go to sleep to the sounds of screaming teenagers and chainsaws. Um, so that's kind of like that's one of the reasons why I like it's kind of like nostalgia vibes for me too. And since they knew us, they would let us go through it whenever it was closed, like when they were getting it ready every year. So that really brought that back. But I kind of got the feeling that
Yeah.
that was sort of the sense, and I feel like that's like an appropriate type of movie if that's the vibe they're going on. The appropriate type of movie to launch everything off of.
Well, I'll tell you what's crazy is, and you should bring that up. It's great because that haunted house you see in the movie, that's Tom's actual haunted house. It's called the Fright Zone.
Okay, and they, you know what, they mentioned that at the end of
Yeah.
the movie. I think something too, like going to you can go to the Fright Zone or something like that. So
Yeah. So that was the one Tom would always do a haunt right next to his monster museum, Tom Devlin's Monster Museum in Boulder City. In the next parking lot over, he owns a building that we use for sets now, but it was the haunt. And so a lot of those, when you're watching the movie, there's surveillance camera footage of like the haunt. Those people going through it are real people going through the haunt that signed a waiver that were like, yeah, I'll be in the movie. And so their reactions and them getting scared is actually part of the movie. And when I flew into Vegas to shoot it, I landed, went straight to Tom's house, and Tom handed me a piece of paper. And he's like, I've never acted before. My first acting gig was Teddy. We met at a convention at a horror con in Atlanta. And he was like, I love you. I want you to be in this movie. I flew out. He hands me this piece of paper. It's got a paragraph on it. And he's like, I need you to shoot this Fright Zone commercial. You got to be the third person in this commercial. The other two people in the commercial with me are the leads in Teddy. So they're real actors.
yeah,
Like they're legit. And I look at my piece of paper and I look over at theirs and I'm like, why does mine have twice as many lines? You know, I've been on a 4-hour flight. I just got here. I have no idea what I'm doing. And he was like, go. And that was my introduction into acting.
I like it. You know, just it's a crash course. Sometimes this on the job learning is how you get it done. You know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, I wouldn't have wanted to do it any other way. I'm kind of glad that's how it happened because it was kind of trial through fire. And now it's like now it's easy peasy. Nothing's as hard as that.
Well, I wonder. So you played the ringmaster, or you play the guy playing the ringmaster in that
Yeah.
movie, right? So was the ringmaster a character that he had already had, or was it that he saw you and he was like, you know what, you should be a ringmaster?
You know, literally when we were in this hotel in Atlanta horror convention,
Mm-hmm.
he was a guest. And I actually had a couple of my clients at the show. And the way we met, this is the first time me and Tom met. He had a table in another room. I thought it was a bad setup. And I said, hey man, let me help you out. I love John Face Off. Like, I think you're cool. Let me move you into the room with my clients so you have a little better, you know, setup so you can sell your stuff. And after that day, you know, that night, he's like, thank you so much. We're just sitting there talking in the lobby. And he's like, I'm going to write a part for you in this movie. And he's like, I just think you're great. And of course, I'm real typecast with my mustache. So if you have a curly mustache, you're probably going to be a ringmaster at least once. And he was just like, I got this idea. I want you to be a ringmaster. And he went off and wrote it.
Nice. I like that. You know, sometimes just having that feature that stands out, that'll get you something. You know, note to the aspiring actors out there.
Yeah, I look, if you've got something and it's working, don't shave it off. That's
Right.
you know, whatever it is, you got something and it's working, lean into it.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I only have a beard because my wife won't let me shave it off, but that's a whole different topic for a different thing. And you know, I do want to get a little bit more into the Plan 10 pictures and talk more about what's going on because we one of the movies we mentioned was Las Vegas Frankenstein. You're
Yep.
in a little bit of that. There's a party scene you're in there. And
Yep.
then there's a movie They Call Her Headhunter, where
Yes.
you play the butcher, who's like this hitman torturer kind of guy. Tell us about that role and what that whole process was like.
So that one I did with that one wasn't a Plan 10 picture. That was actually one I did with Gary Orana out
Oh, you're
here.
right. You know what I saw in the
Yeah.
beginning? I was like, oh wait, this
Yeah.
is not a Plan 10 picture.
It's not
Yeah.
Plan 10, but Gary is actually the cinematographer for Teddy Told Me To and Las Vegas Frankenstein.
Part of
He
the
shot
family.
none of it. Yeah. So he's part of the family. And that was really funny because I did do Las Vegas Frankenstein, and it's with Noah Hathaway. Me and him are in that scene together. And once again, that was another thing where Tom hit me up. He's like, I know you know Noah. Can you get me and Noah together? I want him to be in this movie. And I'm like, absolutely. Like, because Noah lives here in Vegas too. So I was like, let's get him out. And that was a really fun just scene, like the whole party scene. And Gary was there. And afterwards, Gary was like, man, I love what you did. Because me and Gary didn't really work together on Teddy. I came out on an off week when Gary wasn't there. So when we worked together on Las Vegas, Gary was like, hey, man, I'd love to have you be in this movie. I got this idea. Let me send it to you, you know? And he's like, you're going to be this guy, the butcher. That's my character name in that movie. And it was really funny because he sent me this really crazy script and he had all this medical jargon in it, all this weird stuff. And I had to call Gary and I was like, Gary, am I a medical student? Am I an ex-doctor who's gone crazy and now I'm killing people? Or am I a killer who thinks he's a doctor? And he was like, that's a great question. He goes, you're a killer who thinks you're a doctor. And I was like, all right,
Okay.
we're cutting all this out. I was like, because I can't pronounce half these words. I was like, I was literally on YouTube trying to figure out how to pronounce some of these words. And he's like, all right, let's kind of rework it. So we reworked it. And, but it was great, man, working with Katie Morgan, who's gorgeous, and Tabitha Stevens, who's also gorgeous. And talk about, they knew every single one of their lines. They were super prepared. I mean, they crushed it when we went in there, but it was a lot of fun. We shot for 2 days and, man, it was just nonstop kind of cutting people up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, see, that's why I wanted to know about it because your character in that one is like you would expect him to be this sort of sadistic guy who's taking pleasure in, like you said, cutting people up, and he is, or at least he wants to be, but he's actually just getting more and more frustrated as the movie goes on, instead of getting more sadistic and getting pleasure out of what he's doing.
We shot it the whole time, and it was kind of like it was. That's what the whole feeling was supposed to be. It's me. I'm supposed to just get this over with and wham, bam, bam, thank you, ma'am, and we're done. And we move on to the next thing. And instead it turns into a whole movie about me where I'm kind of in the background trying to kill this guy. And it's just not working for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really cool. And like you said, I like how you mentioned, the people that you're working with there too in those movies, because I mean, really the cast of some of these movies, again, for being, I guess, a family production, right? And then you're working with, your folks like Felissa Rose and CJ Grahams, and really just titans of the horror genre.
Oh, yeah.
It's got to be impressive. And you mentioned, having clients in the convention world, and we'll kind of get to that a little bit, because, you do get to know these people on that circuit. I mean, you and I walk in that same world in that kind of way. But whenever you're at a point where you're working on a project with him, that's got to feel really different.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's funny because right when we finished Teddy, the very first, we went to a Mad Monster convention, and I believe it was Phoenix, and Tom brought like the whole family, like, because I mean, like you said, it's a family. His wife, his 2 kids, because Lily and Cooper are both in the movie. His son and his daughter, and then he brought his wife Lola, who's also in the movie, and Steve, who plays a role, he's kind of in the background in the movie, and he had the whole setup. And I was there with Sherilyn Finn, and I was like, Sherilyn, here's some pictures of me from this movie. And it was funny because she posted on her Instagram. She's like, this is my good friend Matt. He's a great character actor. And I was like, don't say anything yet. Okay, but working with them and talking to them about it, she gave me great advice because I had a horrible time in this one scene in Teddy kind of hitting my mark because I kept trying to look over at it. And Sherilyn Finn was just like, all you got to do is count how many steps there is to your mark and then walk back. And when they say action, stop it. If it's 14 steps to your mark, you just remember in your mind 14 steps. So as you walk, you stop on your 14th step. And I was like, I wish you'd been there that night.
Yeah.
to help me out. Like, but working with them, when they're actually on set with you, it's completely different. I mean, because I'm looking up to them, like not just as, oh, you're, a client or you're a friend, but as like, I'm looking to them, like, how are they acting in this scene? Like, what are they doing differently? How are they, reading the words off the script? What are they getting from it? And so getting that feedback is pretty much priceless. When they
Mhm.
give me any advice, um, I mean, I do have a very small part in Las Vegas Frankenstein, Chet, the sleazy agent. Um, but Noah, I had to say a line and it was tricky. I was just kept stumbling over it. Noah Hathaway goes, slow down and just say the words real slow. And you wouldn't even think about that because you're excited, you're on set, it's your time to come up, you're ready to go. And then he just told me that, and I was like, he made it so easy. I mean, I think we did 3 takes of all that, and it was just every take was perfect.
Yeah, I always tell myself, I feel like that's like the number one rule for me. Even I'm not an actor. I'm not trying to be an actor. I would never, I never try to claim to be an actor. But I get in front of people and I talk a lot, and I'm constantly telling myself slow down.
Yeah.
Because it's like you slow down, and then when you feel like you're going too slow, you slow down just a little bit more.
Yeah.
Um, I do want to know, are you a wrestling fan to any degree?
I am definitely a wrestling fan, but see, for me, it was like the Von Erichs. It was like Hulk
Yeah.
Hogan, the Giant. I probably got out of it like around the time, like I'm a dirty skater kid. I'm a skateboarder, which I do in the after dark. I skate in it. And so I started skating around, 88, 89. And so that kind of was that weird turning point for me. I'm from Texas. So the Von Erichs are
Yeah.
a religion. They're like kings of the state kind of thing. And so watching them, it was real big for me. But getting to see the wrestlers, obviously in the After Dark, was super cool. Gangrel was great. I mean, what a cool guy to come out and do this. And Tom is a massive wrestling fan. If you want to know, Plantain Pictures will work a wrestler into every movie if it is all possible.
That's what I wanted to talk about because Papa Shango has a cameo in Teddy Told Me To, which really, like, I really perked up whenever that happened.
Oh
And
yeah.
then, like I said, yeah, so you mentioned, because the next movie from Plantain Pictures, The After Dark,
Yes.
Gangrel is in the movie.
Yep.
And, that was someone that I watched a lot whenever I was a kid. You have Kiz Arney in the movie as well, from TNA. And then you have Paul London in that movie
Yeah.
too, who wrestled in WWE. A lot as a tag team competitor, a lot, but still, like, someone's really really cool. So it's got to be. Tell me about working with the wrestlers on the After Dark.
I'll tell you the wildest thing about working with all the wrestlers on the After Dark is Tom worked in so much fighting into the movie between them. And it wasn't even watching them fight, it was watching them choreograph it. It was kind of like being behind the scenes at a WWE, being behind the scenes at WrestleMania or something behind the curtain. And you're seeing these guys kind of walk themselves through, like, I'm going to punch you and I'm going to grab you and throw you through this wall. And I'm standing there like, you're going to what? Who's going to, and so with the After Dark, I was there on set, I think, I mean, 3 or 4 days in a row, like I stayed the whole night, no matter what, wherever my scene was at. There was a lot of scenes where I'm skating on a mini ramp in the background. So I had to be a lot of background noise. I was like the background movement guy. And so I was there all night. So watching them kind of choreograph, watching them go through their lines. Because I think for Gangrel, especially, he actually said to Tom, he's like, I've been a vampire my whole life, and I've never played one in a movie. So he was so excited to be there, but man, he just had a presence. Like the first time I saw him, he's like back in the office, kind of working his lines and stuff, just sitting behind a table. And I mean, big dude. I was just like, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I
I've
was
only
like,
met him once, but he's a big man.
yeah, he's a big dude, but he's turbo nice. And but he was right into character. He was a vampire the whole time, and he killed it. Like, he was great.
That's awesome. I love all that.
Oh man.
And also, like, talking about people that you may or may not expect to see in a movie. Uh, is this the first movie that Lars Frederiksen is in. Is that right?
Dude, I think so. I
Okay.
think that's what Tom, I mean, from what I've heard from Tom and Lars kind of talking, um, I was there the first night he came out to do that too. Like Tom hit me up for, like, we kind of shot the whole movie. And then all those little, when you watch the movie, you'll see Lars is kind of the narrator of the film. He's sort of there and turning a corner and he's like, let's see what happens here, and it's kind of a rad vibe. But I was there the night he shot all those. And because we had to do the final scene where, like, certain things happen, won't give anything away. But we're there to shoot the last scene and Lars shows up. And of course, Tom is a huge punk rock fan, huge skater fan. I mean, huge Rancid fan. So it was really funny because Tom never really geeks out. He was geeking out pretty hard on Lars.
Yeah.
I mean, I was trying to play it cool, like, oh, I hang out with celebrities all the time. No big deal, But I was definitely like, it's great to see you. Like, like when he left,
Yeah.
for coming out, man. I really appreciate it.
I'm actually going to see Rancid this September, as a matter of fact. So I'm really looking forward to it. So I myself am a fan. That's why that really caught my attention. That you had Lars Frederiksen in the movie. I mean, do you have any idea? Did you hear any backstory on how that even came to be?
I'll say this: Tom is very fearless in his attempts to go out and get what he wants.
Mhm.
Like, he's not I mean, I'm sure he's talked to like Hulk Hogan or something, like I'm sure he's reached out and been like, hey, like, what would it take?
Right.
I mean, that is like, that's the coolest thing about Tom is he's willing to, like, whatever his dream is. And his dream was to do this vampire skater, punk rock goth, epic, and do it with these wrestlers and do it with these, rock stars. And I mean, he had the idea and, man, he just went out and got it. And so the backstory I got was loves Rancid, loves punk rock. And he just reached out and was like, hey, are you interested? Like, what would it take? Like, let's figure it out. And I'll tell you the funniest story, because Tom will get mad at me about this, but we shot all the scenes and Lars brought his guitar, and was like, hey, Tom, you want to hold, and they're like touching his, and then Tom's like, do you want to go over to the museum? And it's probably like 11 o'clock at night. He's like, we'll go open up the museum. You can walk through the Monster Museum. And he like walked Lars through the Monster Museum. And he told me now, he's like, they're like friends. Like, they're just like talking on the phone. They talk about the movie. They talk about other projects. So yeah, Tom is fearless.
That's dope. Yeah, that's cool, and a wrestling connection too. I think, because Lars and CM Punk, I believe, are friends. So, that's really awesome. I can't wait to see what he does in the movie. I'm real excited about it on Tubi on July 9th. And we talked a little bit about Comic-Cons, and you talked about your clients a little bit as well. And that's a place where you and I sort of overlap, because I'm doing interviews and moderating Q&As and emceeing at Comic-Cons myself. So tell me a little bit about Demeter Talent Management.
Yep, that's my wife's company, Samantha Osborn. And so me and her work together, and we book your favorite movie stars, TV stars, voice actors, and musicians at all the Comic-Cons, horror shows, and sci-fi events all over the world. So, we're the other side of the Comic-Con. Like, it's funny, but me and my wife both worked on, like, with shows. Like, I did security at shows. We did like helped with the booking and the flights and the hotel booking, transportation. And so now we're on the other side. So we're the ones who bring out those celebrity guests. So when you want to see Kane Hodder or you want to see Robert Englund, we're the people who help bring those guys to your Comic-Cons.
Yeah, that's it's something that I get asked from time to time. People will say, how do you even get a celebrity to show up at an event? And I said, well, these days, there are agencies, and you find a good reputable agency like Demeter Talent Management. And it's essentially like the celebrity store, right? You go in there, you see who's on the roster, you see, and you reach out and you say, hey, what, like you said earlier, what's it going to take to get, so-and-so? And you'll have a lot of heavy hitters over there too. I'm looking at Walton Goggins on there right now. We mentioned Felissa Rose earlier. She's there. I mean, honestly, for me to try and list off some of your clientele would be a disservice to the rest of them, because there are so many amazing people there.
Oh yeah. I mean, what, I can tell a little bit of the backstory. The way it all started was actually Twin Peaks. And my wife was helping a show in Dallas, and they had some Twin Peaks guests, Kimmy Robertson, Harry Goes. And that was kind of the beginning because they both loved my wife so much. They were like, we want to work with you guys. Like, we want you to be our new agent. It's sort of from there, it catapulted on to just, other people within that show. And then now yeah, like you said, it's all sorts of people across all sorts of, genres.
Yeah. There's because, like you said, across a lot of genres, there's a lot of people on here who it's like, okay, yeah, you have some horror people, and then you have someone like Deborah Messing jump out at you as well. And it's like, well,
Yep.
that's a name that gets my attention, right?
Yes.
So it's very cool, man, and I really love. It's something that I love doing, working conventions. I mean, it's stressful, it's hectic, it's crazy, but it's also a lot of fun, and it's also really rewarding, and I like it a lot.
Cool.
So just sum it up for me real quick, if you could.
Okay.
We have The After Dark
Yes.
coming out on Tubi, July 9th.
July 9th.
What can we expect from the movie? What should we be looking forward to as we sit down to watch The After Dark?
This is your classic goth vampires versus your punk rock vampires for kind of the souls of the city. You're going to see any Tom Devlin movie, you're going to see a lot of blood. You're going to see a lot of laughs, but then you're also going to see, just a lot of adventure. I mean, he gives you everything you want and nothing you don't need. You know what I mean? Like, he trims it down. He's going to give you lots of blood, lots of gore, some laughs, probably some boobs. And then people are going to get ate and they're going to party and we're going to have a good time.
I mean, what else could you want, really?
Yeah, I mean, look, that's the thing when people go, what are these movies like? I want to watch it. Like, send me the link or whatever. And I'm like, look, get on Tubi, check them out. You're going to enjoy them. If you're that kind of person that wants to sit down and watch a wild movie. If you want to sit down and watch a really fun movie that's going to take you from A to B real quick with a lot of funny, crazy stuff in between, that's Tom Devlin's movies. There's not a lot of other stuff you don't need.
I love it, man. Yeah, like I said, what else could you want? The After Dark is going to be on Tubi on July 9th. All of y'all, make sure you check that out. Matt Osborn, let everybody know where they can find you and keep up with what you got going on.
You can follow me on, I love Instagram, and on Instagram, I'm the most mediocre. So you can find me on there. Follow Plan 10 Pictures on Instagram. You can find them online too. Plan10pictures.com. And then Demeter Talent Management.com and Demeter Talent on Instagram.
I love all that. Thanks for taking the time to sit down and talk with me here today. And I'm looking forward to seeing the movie.
Cool, man. July 9th. Check it out. Thank you so much for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Before you go, I need your help. You see, it's my goal to run this channel without doing any paid ad reads. And in order to do that, we need to grow this thing together. So make sure you hit subscribe, like this video, and drop a comment below on who you think I should interview next.